Welcome everybody online and in person for the first hybrid event for TechSquare ATL Social Club. This is the first one. So some are in person, some are watching live on the YouTube. So if you are in the YouTube channel, go ahead and if you have any questions, make sure to put them in the chat and then we'll ask them when Q&A comes. So what's TechSquare ATL Social Club? Well, we're a members-only community connecting individuals and companies seeking productive collaborations to a curated environment that fosters growth and innovation. We're here in TechSquare Atlanta, and we have over 100 startups in this area, corporate innovation centers, lots of Georgia Tech students, and lots of smart minds. But today we're here to talk to 4 panelists in celebration of Battery Day. Tesla Battery Day should be following this. We will not be streaming on this stream, but we do invite you to watch all the cool Battery Day festivities. You guys didn't want to be on camera? All right, sorry about that, I should have warned you. But we do have a panel of awesome panelists, that makes sense, but, and I will let them all introduce themselves. So let me make sure I turn you all up. Okay, very good. And our first panelist is Venus, and I'll let him introduce himself and what he does around batteries.
Yeah, hi, thanks for that. Hi guys, I'm Venus Desai, co-founder, CEO for Nugent Systems. We are a battery-based solutions, energy solutions company based here in Atlanta, part of ATDC and Engage. And what we do is, we're building basically battery-based solutions for things like replacing lead-acid batteries that are used in the industrial ecosystem, or building, other solutions like a battery-powered gas generator replacement and things like that. And it's all designed around our battery and communications platform.
All right, thank you for that. Next up, we have Terry with the Tesla Owners of Atlanta, and go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. My name is Terry Travis, with the president of the Tesla Owners Club Atlanta, EV Hybrid Noir, and a number of other organizations in the EV space. But glad to be here having this conversation on Tesla Battery Day. I think that, from the turnout online and in person, you see that there's a lot of interest in electric vehicles and clean transportation, and looking forward to the dialogue.
All right. Next we have our Gabe. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Gabe Graves. I'm a second-year material science student here at Georgia Tech. I'm on the solar sub-team, or I'm the solar sub-team lead for Georgia Tech Solar Racing, and have additionally done research into graphene-enhanced batteries and perovskite solar cells.
All right. Last but not least, we have Mark.
Excellent.
Yep, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. It's great to see everybody here. It's actually nice to have a in-person and virtual hybrid event for a change. My name is Mark Wassley. I have a fairly unique position here in Atlanta as an investor here in TechSquare, but also an operator in a company called Tech Charging, TEQ. And many of you may have heard of TEQ, came through the CreateX program at Georgia Tech. It was originally funded by Chris Klaus, founder of Internet Security Systems. And a program that was created for Georgia Tech undergraduates, so that you folks could actually start and operate an early stage company, receive some funding, receive mentorship, receive legal advice and credits from Amazon and so forth. So Tech Charging was one of those companies. And then because it's an IoT-enabled SaaS solution, Techstars invited the company to join their accelerator up in New York. And so what essentially what the software does is it overlays level 2 chargers in the US. It's agnostic So it basically, you can pull up to a charger. It provides access control, number one. It can turn that dumb charger, say it's a Clipper Creek or an EVgo charger, into a vending machine and monetize that experience. And then third, especially for retrofitting, which I know that we're going to get into infrastructure, because we're going to talk a little bit about range anxiety. A lot of folks have pulled a circuit and they want to share that circuit. So imagine being able to share that and have your car and other cars charged overnight or during the day while you're at work, and you have the ability to share, and you actually have an app that's showing you your access, your payment, or the time of the charge. So that's what Tech Charging's doing. It's trying to answer a lot of the issues around extending your ability to be mobile in this electric vehicle environment.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your introductions. We'll get right into it. So, first question I'll pose, and I'll push this to Terry first. So, with other technologies growing so fast, CPUs, RAM, all sorts of other things, video cards, right? NVIDIA with their video processors. Are batteries really the technology that is lacking, that is keeping us back from some sort of innovation?
Yes and no. My answer to that is I think that battery technology and storage is part of the problem or part of the solution, but I think the infrastructure is also one of the biggest issues. And I think that even answering the question about innovation, I think that the second part of that would be to add widespread adoption. I think that if most of us in the room have had experiences where electric vehicles are still less than 2% of vehicle sales or new vehicle sales. So I think it's a multifaceted answer. I think it's battery technology as price per kilowatt begins to or continues to drop below $100 per kilowatt, as battery chemistry begins to change and evolve, as battery energy and density begins to accelerate or increase, in addition to having a more robust charging infrastructure, we have to have a situation where charging infrastructure is as ubiquitous as gas stations for most folks to be able to think about making that switch over to EVs.
All right. And then Venus, I mean, kind of along with that, then is it just that we don't have enough infrastructure to build these batteries fast enough? Is there a lack of supply? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with what Terry was saying, right? Batteries actually, I mean, it's a problem and not a problem. It's actually a solution, right? So I look at batteries as a building block. So, if you think about in the 60s, 70s, when ICs first came out, right? They were actually the building block to the computing age and then the mobile age. But when they first came out, they were not as powerful, they were not as cheap, and they only got better with time. And as they got better, they became the reason for a lot of the newer solutions that got into the market and what we have today. So batteries, in my opinion, are kind of in the same ballpark. I mean, I started my career building lithium-ion or launching lithium-ion batteries for cell phones for Motorola. And at that time, I mean, if you think about the batteries that existed at that time, you could not charge them. You had to charge them overnight. You could not charge them halfway through it. You had to kind of let them discharge. So batteries have changed a lot, and as they've changed, they've basically enabled better and better solutions to come out into the market. And I think that will continue.
All right. And Gabe, when you were racing with the solar car for Georgia Tech, where were you getting your supplies? Were they hard to get? What about batteries? I mean, was there any batteries involved, or is it direct solar to motor?
Yeah, so for our batteries, we use a battery pack consisted of 18650s.
Okay.
And so basically our battery pack holds about 147 volts. And the process of basically taking the solar energy and converting it, or like transfer it to our battery pack. That is done through something called an MPPT, where basically we take the max power point that we're getting from our solar panels, and we're transferring that power into our battery pack. And so whenever looking into like the overall infrastructure of installing batteries, you also need to kind of look into the supply of it, especially if you do want to implement solar panels into that.
All right. Well, then I know, Mark, you're probably dying to answer this question. So I know it's supply chain and infrastructure. So what do you think is holding back kind of future technologies? Is it batteries, or is it the infrastructure for those batteries?
I think we've heard both, right? I think clearly the answer is both. But I have a strong opinion that infrastructure is really the leading piece of it. A lot of people get excited. We're here because it's Battery Day. A lot of people are very, very, very excited about it. I'm excited about the work that you're doing, and I'm very hopeful that we're going to all benefit. All EV owners are going to benefit. But the ubiquity that you discussed in terms of making it like a gas station, and if I could just for 1 second ask each of you, if you and I were to design the gasoline distribution system today, would we create gas pumps the way they look like today? Right? It would be kind of ridiculous. These things are thousands of dollars. They have a lot of mechanical parts. They fail. We'd probably create something to hold the nozzle and lock it in place. And this would be our screen, right? It would be an app.
Right.
And that's where I think that's where I envision us going, is that I can pull into one of those chargers I can see from this seat and pull up on my app and either hit a QR code or a barcode and say, hey, I'm here. And this is who I am. You have my information. You know what kind of car I have. You know what kind of payment information I have. Let's go, right?
Yeah.
And I have permission to be here, right? I'm a resident of this building, or this condo building, a mixed-use building. I am a guest at the hotel. I'm a platinum guest, so my charge is going to be free. I'm a one-time guest.Maybe it's $1 an hour. So that's the level I think we really, 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 really want to see. We got a ways to go. I'm excited to be, that we're all part of that discussion and part of the solution delivery.
Yeah. No, it sounds like definitely thinking about the future. A lot of the future there. Some great ideas. And this is live, so nobody can steal any of those ideas. You heard it here, so there's all his IP. All right. So going to something a little more fun. When was the last time you saw something that was battery powered? And this will be kind of open for everybody, but that surprised you. Something that leaped from kind of gas fossil to batteries. I'm going to go ahead and give mine just to steal it. But those new leaf blowers that everybody's buying that are like 80 volts and 60 volts it looks like they can blow over
the
walls.
Ryobis from Home Depot.
Yeah, all those things.
My brother told me to go get one. I said, I want the whole neighborhood to get these things.
Yeah.
I'm getting tired of hearing it. Either that or just let's all do it on the same day. No, what I saw was, I thought it was a gimmick, and it's like the world's smallest drone, and it takes like the coolest photographs, and it folds up into something that is about half the size of this phone. It was pretty cool.
Anybody else?
Yeah, so I can go on that and actually, plug in a product that we have developed.
This is the time to do it. It's okay.
I mean, the way we look at it, absolutely, right? Everything that is fossil fuel powered today, sooner or later is going to be extinct, right? And so one of the things that we are working on is, I mean, think about, how many times have you been to a food truck or an ice cream truck, and you can smell a generator fuel along with the ice cream or the food that you're eating, and you can see the oil, sludges around and stuff like that. Wouldn't it be cool if that was replaced with a battery-powered generator that basically gave you the same power for the whole day? You took the truck back, charged it, brought it back, and again you had power for the whole day. No noise, no pollution, and actually would be much more cost-effective given the price of gas versus the cost of electricity. And we are actually working with some customers to basically roll out some of those kind of products even today. So looking forward to it. I think there's a lot of other solutions like that.
Yeah.
I would
Alright.
say probably the coolest thing I've just seen, like mainly through stuff like YouTube and all that, is battery-powered planes. Those seem to, they're definitely not, of course, like something that will probably be
Like commercial airlines.
commercialized, yeah, like anytime kind of like in this near future, but maybe let's say 20 years or so. It definitely does seem like those are an up-and-coming thing. I know actually one problem kind of discussed with that is actually having a universal charging port, because I know Tesla has a certain type of charging port,
Right.
and now also say Hyundai or Nissan or all these other different types of EV companies have their own different types of charging ports. And so it's going to be interesting to see how we're going to design sort of a universal one, especially for aircraft, so that you don't have to kind of worry about that. You can basically charge it at almost any charging station.
Right. It's a little bit like everybody needs dongles to connect to different USB connections.
Yeah.
Kind of. I guess that's opportunity for other companies, but yeah, definitely annoying. So we'll continue on here, and I think something that's on a lot of people's minds that I've seen kind of lithium-ion batteries go on fire or stuff like that. Are batteries safe today, and are there anything that we need to do, or is there anything we need to do in order to make them safer? Should the general public be okay with it? Is it a very low percentage? What are the stats that you guys know about battery problems?
I guess I'll go. Looks like everybody's looking up to me. So, I mean, batteries have a lot of power, right? So, I mean, there is inherent, what you call, issues associated with that. But so does a power socket, right? If you go and put in a couple of wires into a power socket,
Right.
You're in trouble. And it's the same thing with batteries, right? As long as you can use them the right way and they're designed and, developed and manufactured by the right people, I mean, they're not bad. And having said that, I mean, we've heard of cases like the Galaxy phone and stuff, and you do see some issues that do crop up from time to time. But there are chemistries that are out there today that are very, very safe. And what you compromise on is the energy density. So
Yeah.
the trade-off is in, the higher energy density, you trade off a little bit of the safety, but you can work around it.
Would you
And the lower the energy density, you can make them quite safe.
would you say it's mostly a heat problem or a container problem, or neither?
Yeah, I don't think it's a heat problem as much as I think the biggest danger with lithium-ion is if you kind of overcharge them
Right.
and they get volatile, right? So you got to make sure that your charging algorithms and your charging systems, along with the battery, have enough protection built into that system to prevent it from getting, to a point where it overcharges.
Can a panelist ask a panelist a question?
Sure.
Okay, great. So I've been reading a little bit about some of the work that's being done or playing around in the labs with this nuclear waste. That scares the heck out of me.
Yeah, there you go.
Like diamonds, and nuclear waste, and hey, this is great. This is, we can solve two problems at once. Do you see any future for that whatsoever?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too familiar with it, but I
can,
mean, compare the battery versus nuclear, right? But yeah, I'm guessing Gabe probably has a lot more.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, there are definitely many different ways to kind of go around handling that. One of them actually, so Dr. Stacy, he's a fusion researcher here at Georgia Tech. They're currently working on a reactor actually that would use basically the nuclear waste as sort of a hybrid fuel material in a nuclear fusion reactor. So you would basically kind of use the fusion to actually fission the nuclear waste from our current reactors, and that could get you then the byproduct of that would be a lot less material that you would have to kind of worry about nuclear proliferation, say putting uranium into missiles or so. You wouldn't really have to worry about that.
All right.
But I would want to chime in real quick. So one of the things that we have to, as an ecosystem, when we think about EV, safety is one of those things that comes up. And I can't tell you how many times I get a text if a Tesla has an accident and on the freeway or a battery catches on fire somewhere. But the idea is that we never think about that with internal combustion engine vehicles. About 180,000 vehicles per year catch on fire. And we never, we'll see them on 85 and just drive past it like it's normal. But if an electric vehicle happens to catch on fire, it's like, that makes the news.
Right. Yeah.
I sent the editor of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution a note last week about, there was a crash, hydroplane, 5:30 in the morning, a Tesla driver slid into a bus stop, and it was a tragic accident. However, there was a tragic accident with a 71-year-old woman who was killed when a tree fell on her as a result of Hurricane Mary. But they never told us what kind of tree it was. I'm sorry, it's just, but I'm with you. This is, unfortunately, it's something that, Tesla's getting it. I think that, any EV could get it, but, Tesla's going to take it. And I think everybody, quickly jumps to the notion of autopilot. Is it driver assist? Is it autopilot? And that's a whole different discussion for probably not for battery day. Right?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's keep it moving along here. And I'm going to throw something out there. I know Terry and I have discussed it a little bit before, but there's this concept of having a battery grid system. And in particular, it's fun to think about it in focusing on HOAs. So you have a neighborhood, a community, they all get some sort of battery wall, Tesla power wall, and they're able to share that. Have you heard of anything going on, or how far away do you think that is? And is that a good idea for future residential type of builds, especially here in Atlanta?
Yeah. Would you like to?
Yeah. So in terms of having sort of a more sort of a smart grid per se, I know that there are, for example, I don't know, I'm guessing Tesla will probably have this technology pretty soon, but I know, for example, say Lucid, they just revealed that in terms of charging, you can actually both charge not only your car with, say, your home battery, but also your home with your car's battery. And so by having that sort of reversible charging, I think that's definitely going to offer up a lot better solutions sort of to kind of getting away from the main sort of grid that usually is more so, say, coal or not fossil fuels. And that definitely is going to be exciting to see rolled out.
All right.
I think right now, the only, and I can't speak to the Tesla wall, but to HOAs, man, what a nightmare. I mean, these folks are still trying to figure out how to pull that first charger in.
Right.
And the guy goes, hey, I'm willing, or the gal goes, I'm willing to pay for it.
Right.
And then now you have to upgrade, you potentially, not just pull wire and conduit, but you may have to upgrade the panel. And so anyhow, that's one of the reasons Tech was trying to, Tech Charging is trying to eliminate the need to do that, so that, we're going to use one circuit, share it. Oh, wow. Sharing within an HOA and your spots are in different locations, and I have to move my spots now because you want them to be contiguous. So, solving some of those issues have been a real challenge, but we're dealing with a lot of them because the users are the owners are demanding it. They're saying, hey, listen, this is something that we must have. This is kind of like Wi-Fi was to hotels.
Right.
First they charged for it, then it was free. Is it an amenity, or isn't it a money-making, profitable solution?
Yeah, and we see with the sprawl of Atlanta, apartment complexes, they have to put them in. It's an amenity that's just standard now. Again, how accessible is it and things like that. Terry, I know that you're kind of from the kind of educational space. Is it really just educating different markets, like this is an important thing to do?
I want to go back to the conversation around the virtual grid real quick. One of the things that's happening is you're seeing, V2G. There is technology in existence right now. I know people that literally drive their vehicles to work, charge them, go home. They have an inverter, and their vehicle runs the power in their home. As was mentioned, Lucid, Rivian, a number of other companies are coming out with V2X. So you'll see more vehicles running energy and utilizing the energy from those batteries, because they're basically storage in different ways. I think that in addition to that, as we think about electrification of everything, particularly in transportation, what we're seeing now is school bus pilots where they're utilizing the batteries in school buses to actually provide grids for subdivisions. If your subdivision, you lost power, you could actually pull that school bus that was not in use and actually plug that into the system and actually power that entire subdivision. So the concept of being a virtual grid or V2X, and I think that, and I hope that Tesla will introduce something very similar soon that will allow bi-directional charging as well as from vehicle to vehicle.
Nice. Venus, do you have something you want to say, or no? You good?
Sorry, what?
Okay, sorry. I thought you were like itching to say something.
No.
But Battery Day, they're on a short break right now. The live stream is about to start soon, but I want to get some rapid fire questions going on here just to make sure that we get some of these in. So real quick, we'll start from left to right. Well, my left to right. What is the magic number of miles where range anxiety will go away for a trip? I know it's kind of hard to ask, but
Yeah, I don't know if range anxiety is actually because of the miles, or is it because of, like you mentioned earlier, it's the infrastructure, right? Today a car goes about 350 to 400 miles. Many of the Teslas can do that today, right? But the problem is that when you're done, how quickly can you charge it? Is there charging available? And I think, to me, that is going to be the big problem.
All right, Terry, what do you think?
I think it's around 400 miles of range. I think, and I think that it's not necessary, but I think that it is around that 400 mile range number, just because when you look at the data, it shows that the average person commuting drives about 30 to 40 miles a day. Almost every EV that's on the road right now can absolutely do that backwards. So I think that it's a perception problem. Like, how many times do we drive 300 to 400 miles in a day, the average person? So, but I think that mentally we need to get to that 400 mile range for folks to feel comfortable.
Gabe, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think it kind of has to do with context as well. Perhaps maybe you often do drive long range. For example, whenever I drove to this campsite in Bend, Texas. I did not fully plan out the route, and I ended up running out of battery and had to get my car towed. So I definitely, I think it definitely is like just, if say you're in Atlanta or so, you don't really need to worry about that much. But I think this also is like kind of the ideal for like having, say, solar panels on top of your car. You won't really have to necessarily worry about you know, like having to tow your car if you
Right.
run out of battery. So
Yep.
yeah.
What do you think there, Mark? What's the magic number?
1 million
All
miles.
right. Nice.
No, I think you hit it on the head. I think it's probably in that 400 to 500 mile range, and I think that's because of the internal combustion engine. People think, hey, if I got an SUV with a full tank, I'm probably going to be able to make it this far. I think it's probably something that's ingrained in our brains. But again, I just kind of keep coming back to the infrastructure. If you feel, once you feel confident in the infrastructure and not just, oh my God, I'm looking at plug share all the time,
Right.
then I think it becomes more reasonable. But I think in the meantime, it's 400 to 500 miles.
All right. Well, this one comes from YouTube right now. It's from Dan Marks. What does the group think of the impact of time shifting will have? So, an example, charging overnight at very low rates with power companies during the peak time. As more EVs are acquired, is it going to be sustainable? Anybody?
Can you repeat that? I don't think I.
So Georgia Power here has a plan to where if you charge, if you opt in, your kilowatt hour rate is lower during non-peaked usage, but it's a little higher during normal times. So if everybody gets an electric vehicle and that incentive is still there, do you think they're going to cut that incentive off, or does that put a strain on the power companies? I'm not saying anybody's representing power company here, but any thoughts on time shifting in general?
So I think there's a great opportunity. I just don't think the power companies have figured it out yet.
Right.
I honestly don't. I think we've all done the math, and we kind of come back to opting out of the program. I personally did, but I think again, it's as we move out of the nascent piece and get into the hyper growth portion of the curve, I think more and more of the power companies are going to understand this, and they're going to understand the behaviors, and they're going to match their peak usage hours and their non-peak usage hours to our needs.
Nice.
Is that fair?
Well, so if the power companies aren't, getting it together, then what's holding things? What's the problem with alternative energy? What's holding back solar panels? Oh,
Well,
you want to say something?
let me go back
ahead.
to really quickly the utility question. Utilizing time of usage plans and looking at peak load, the more EVs we have on the road, the more beneficial it is for all ratepayers, because it actually balances the load. In addition to that, what we're seeing in more progressive and innovative areas is that because you have a situation where there are more EVs, they're encouraging folks to charge at different times.
Right.
So what you're seeing is that time of use rate varies based on where you are and based on what peak load is. So whether you drive an EV or you don't, eventually the more electric vehicles there are on the road, it's going to be a cheaper utility bill for everyone.
Right.
Yeah, and so going back to the solar panel question, I would say there's kind of three main problems at the moment in terms of installing solar panels. The first one is, especially here in Georgia, the cost to run your home just from the grid is still currently cheaper if you're looking at, say, about a 25-year time scale than installing solar panels. And so the main problem would be just either getting cheaper solar panels, but you still want to get a little bit of higher efficiency, And so that's kind of what my research is looking into. The second one also is I actually ended up doing customer discovery in the Atlanta area for sort of like what was the main problem affecting just people who do already have solar panels. And the main problem actually was the battery cost. So like the Tesla battery pack, a lot of people are still not really in that kind of price range that it could be. So that was the main problem it seemed to be for actually storage-wise.
Okay.
And then this third one just actually goes back to just the cost of actually manufacturing the solar panels.
So Tyler here, who's been helping us do this, has told me that Battery Day is started at Tesla. So I'm going to wrap it up with each one of you going from left to right to one, tell me your last thoughts, and then predictions for any sort of battery technology advancements or what's going to happen in Battery Day, we'll say over the next 2 years. So something pretty short. We'll start with you, Venus.
Yeah, so in terms of thoughts, I mean, I look at, the next decade as the decade of energy, right? I mean, you've had the computing decade and the internet decade and the mobile decade. I think the next decade is all about energy, and you're going to see a lot of new solutions, new battery-related advancements, and all kinds of things, and some that we haven't even thought of yet.
Yeah. What about you?
Yep. Just over the next few years, I hope that we see cheaper batteries, longer range, higher density.
All right. Gabe?
Yeah, basically just rebounding off that. I really do think, especially within the next decade or maybe two, we should start to see rollout of maybe say solid-state batteries, which can definitely increase the battery density and also improve the safety factor, as you don't really need to worry about the electrolyte kind of catching fire. So.
And then Mark, of course, the future of tech charging is going to be everywhere, but what else?
Dang. You guys took, everything they said. But going back to something that you hammered on earlier, which was ubiquity, and getting to a point where I don't have to pull up to an EV charger and have an uncomfortable experience.
Right.
We have to take the friction out, and it has to be easier than pumping gas.
Yeah.
Right? Going back to our earlier analogy. And I think that certainly that's possible. It's here, and it's now. There are solutions that are capable, but I think we just need to see more and more of that. Tech charging specifically is not seeing pushback from the OEMs, which is awesome. I mean, Tesla's like, hey, tell us a little bit more about how you're doing this. Clipper Creek, we have no designs. They have no designs whatsoever to build that capability.
Right.
But they're looking for people to do that, and so I fear for people like ChargePoint. They're going, hey, we're going to do it. But I got to go up. You look at my phone, I have 5 different apps. I don't want 5 different apps, folks.
Right.
I want it to be more ubiquitous.
All right.
And I think that's what we'll see.
Well, I want to thank everybody again for coming. Tesla Owners Club of Atlanta, all of our panelists. I know it was a short panel, but it did promise everybody Battery Day. I know that we're all going to talk and continue. If you have any other questions in chat, I'll make sure it gets handled. And then we'd like to do this again for sure. And thank you everybody for coming out. And we'll network safely after this.
Thank you for having us.
Enjoyed
thank
it.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.